still do a deal without putting a deposit. But if the deal is great, you gotta make sure there's like 30 things you gotta know, and if you make a mistake in one of them, you might lose the deal. If you don't put a deposit, you might lose the deal. So you go, and if the deal is fantastic, I want to put down $5,000 or $10,000. You know what I mean? If the deal is okay, $10, $100, I don't care if I lose it. I don't care if my buyer goes behind my back, right? Because this happened to me last week on another deal. It happens all the time. When you have a list of 2,000 to 3,000 buyers, or like me, more like 4,000 or 5,000 buyers, there's a bad apple somewhere there, or a bad, what do you call that, a black sheep on my family and my network. So it's a little scary, so you gotta kind of control your stuff, your business needs to be a little more control. My style is to control, because I've been around for so long. I have 2007, you guys heard of the Learning Annex with Kiyosaki and Trump and Tony Robbins? In 2 days, you got 50,000 people here in Fort Lauderdale, 50,000 people, investors, entrepreneurs. They walk through this room with all these seminars, and I gather about 50,000 contacts. Out of those 50,000 contacts, we paid $10,000 to have this booth, right? And out of those, I probably cleaned out the list. I have like 8,000 people in my list. Every time I sent a house, even if it was a deal or not, I would sell it. So that $10,000 paid off in my first second deal. Because I was selling so many houses because my buyers list was so large, large. I would send things and never been heard of. Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, house sold. Every email, send an email, house sold. Way South Miami, Kendall, way South Homestead, south of me, sold. So having a great list is great, but ideally if you're starting out, I'm in an area where you guys can hear me okay, Scott?
No.
So look, here's your tip. Broward County, for example, has 300,000 homes. My area is 5,000 homes. So you got 300,000 houses in Broward County. My area is 5,000 houses. So when I was wholesaling lots of properties, I only have 3 to 5 buyers that rehab 30 to 40 houses in that 5,000 home area, right? You guys got that so far? So what I'm saying now, the point is that you have to stay very local to you, and within a half a mile from you, or I'm more like me, like 5 miles from one of the places that, so it was easy to get to. So I knew all the buyers. If I missed the deals, I knew who bought it, and I wanted to sell them a deal in that small area. So I knew all the buyers, I knew exactly what was going on, so it's just a little more control. And if there's a deal in that area, I'm buying it. If there's a short sale, there's a vacant house that's sitting there, there's a pre-foreclosure, probate, whatever, I'm buying that property because they heard of me from my tenants or from some marketing that I've sent out to them at some point. And then I can repeat my marketing to them, right? So then if they see you often, then they're gonna call you when they're ready. Just like McDonald's, they advertise on TV. Why? Like, McDonald's, but they want to be in the top of like they want to be in front of you every day. McDonald's every day. So you're hungry, think of McDonald's. So my marketing goes out to all my 5,000, it's not a big area, 5,000, it's only 2 subdivisions. And everything goes there every day. Literally, I have people doing signs for me for $1. People doing signs for $1. This lady does signs for me for $1. And I used to have people doing signs for $1.50. And I don't recommend, if you guys want to do signs, it's a great way to get started. I have guys doing flyers for me for like $9 an hour. Flyers. Like when I go to my house, I sometimes get a guy to do flyer neighborhood. I have some of my mail-outs, I pay literally almost like pennies more than what the price of the stamp is. That's cheap. You know what I mean? Like cheap marketing. Driving for dollars, you guys know already. That's one of the best uses of your time. And the thing about Scott, about driving for dollars is people just drive around with no ending, like with no destination. So what I told people, I can write a book about driving for dollars, or I can have like an hour video, because you can do 7 or 8 things when you're driving for dollars. But I can tell you a couple if you guys want. You want to hear a couple of things you can do? Number one, why don't you just go Google or let's say in Miami, you Google, your county, you Google tax deed sale, like the auction for the tax deed, right? Google, you'll pop out free. Or another list, like the courthouse auction list. So right there, you already have a target or where you're going. You're driving for dollars, maybe your third or fourth thing that you're doing. So you're not gonna want to do one thing, you want to do 2, 3, 4 things at once. Right? So that will be you going somewhere and not just going endlessly, driving around for hours. You know what I mean? So you can kill 4 birds with one stone. I kill 2 birds in one stone, 4. So then there's a lot more to that. You know, I hear some people talking about where you put signs. I used to put them on those vacant, ugly houses for years. You know, vacant, ugly houses. And as you guys know, the market changes. Sometimes it's an REO market, sometimes it's a short sale market. When on the hot, like 4 or 5 years ago, when everything was a short sale, we had probably 40, 50 short sales going at once. And one time, I was driving around looking at a property, and there was a vacant, ugly house, and I put a sign in front of a house, like my ibuyhouses sign. Who drives by? A code enforcement inspector drives by, right? What are the chances? And he sees me. The guy's like, "Hey, do you own the property? You know, what's going on here?" And I said, "You know what? I happen to be managing this property for some of well, they're my clients, but I manage properties, not for banks or for our company, because we buy houses. So we had, luckily we had many short sales, so I knew this wasn't one of our properties, but that's something you can say, so the inspector won't like fine you or take you to jail or anything like that." So you guys are getting it, right? So there's always a way out, and luckily in this case, you know, it was okay. He's like, "Oh, okay, you know, you're managing the property," because a house that's sitting there vacant, ugly for years, that's a bad thing for the neighborhood, for the city, for the owner, for the bank, for everybody. So if I say I'm managing the property, that means, you know, I'm kind of watching out for the property. So the guy was like, "Oh, great." The inspector is like, "Cool," and he just left me alone. So you're not really violating a lot of rules. Try not to mislead so much. And I was managing 40 to 50 properties because they're short sales, and half of them are vacant. Like, people leave and they're give us the property, and we were doing a short sale. So that takes like 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half, right? Depending on the market.